For years, Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, aka El Mencho, was described as the one kingpin who is invincible. His blood empire, the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, has grown faster than any other cartel and was almost solely responsible for the huge surge in homicides in Mexico over the last 15 years. But now, a new player is emerging from the shadows, and it seems the end of the terrifying El Mencho might be near.
Indictment charging 41 people of drug trafficking in cocaine, heroin, meth, and fentanyl, as well as money laundering. All 41 defendants operated under the overall control.
We're talking about Elpidio Mojaro Ramirez, known in the underworld as El Pilo. At 67, this former drug trafficker has become a key player in the fight against the CJNG. El Pilo's team up with the DEA could be the game changer in taking down this notorious cartel and bringing its bosses to justice. His story isn't just about crime and redemption. It shows us how complex and risky it is to fight organized crime from the inside. Recently, El Pilo has stepped into the spotlight as a protected witness for U.S. authorities. His cooperation has already put a bunch of big CJNG figures behind bars. Now, some folks think El Pilo might just be the key to toppling the CJNG's whole operation. Word on the street is that El Pilo has already handed over more than 5 members of the Jalisco cartel to the authorities, including a big-shot money man known as El Flaco. This move hasn't just made El Pilo enemy number 1 for the CJNG. It's also made him super valuable in the ongoing war against drug trafficking. El Pilo's cooperation is a big deal. As a former insider who knows the cartel's secrets, his testimony gives us a never-before-seen look into one of Mexico's scariest criminal groups. His work with the DEA is part of a clever deal. By sharing valuable info, El Pilo hopes to get a lighter sentence and maybe even protection for his family. This kind of trade-off isn't unusual in big organized crime cases, but it comes with huge risks. But experts say there might be more to the story that we don't know yet.
No podemos especular todo el día de por qué pueda estar sucediendo esto. Una posible razón es que yo creo que es la más plausible, es que quiere protección, ¿no? Un poquito como que ya quiere salirse, ¿no? Pues como bien me lo planteabas, el cártel Jalisco Nueva Generación pues se está volviendo o ya se volvió el cártel dominante en la zona.
Journalists explain that El Pilo, even though he's under DEA protection in the US, isn't bulletproof. He knows there's probably a price on his head, and if he steps foot in Mexico, he might not last long.
No son superpoderosos ni son Superman, ¿no? Entonces puede que su cabeza tenga ya precio y que posiblemente si él toca la calle no está protegido, vamos.
Porque eso que hiciste no tiene perdón,
¿no? Y lo que se han dado en los últimos años es que no simplemente están viendo aquellos lugartenientes, sino también estamos teniendo consecuencias colaterales, ¿no? Entonces, su esposa, sus hijos, su familia, quien está cercano, puede tener un desplazamiento forzado interno.
So, he needs to act fast against El Mencho, take him down before he can get to El Pilo and his family. And for that reason, it seems like El Pilo is making big moves. El Pilo isn't just sharing information. He's been showing up in court, testifying against top CJNG members. His appearances in US courts have been crucial in getting convictions and long sentences for key cartel players. This level of cooperation is unheard of and could start a domino effect, making other cartel members think about similar deals with the authorities. After all, there can be life after crime, and this might give other gang members hope. El Pilo's criminal career goes way back to the wild 1980s when he first dipped his toes into the drug world. He started out moving drugs to the United States, a profitable route that would later become a big part of the CJNG's business.
Vemos que él arranca como narcotraficante más o menos hacia la década de los 80 del siglo pasado. Comienza su tarea, ¿no? Él especialmente lo hacían con tema de tráfico para Estados Unidos. Allí es capturado en el año 1987, es condenado 8 años precisamente por el tema de narcotráfico.
In 1987, El Pilo's luck ran out when he got caught and sentenced to 8 years for drug trafficking. But he didn't stick around for long. After just 4 years, El Pilo managed to break out of prison and hightail it back to Mexico. This shows how resourceful he is and how tough it can be for the justice system to handle powerful drug traffickers.
Él paga solamente 4 años. 4 años después se escapa de la prisión donde estaba, regresa a México. Pero a partir de ese momento él comienza a tener unas alianzas, especialmente con narcotraficantes colombianos, y comienza a recibir el tema de la droga que llegaba de Sudamérica, y comienza la distribución para Centroamérica, para Estados Unidos y también para Europa.
Back in Mexico, El Pilo wasted no time rebuilding his criminal empire. He started making friends with Colombian drug traffickers, setting himself up as a key middleman in the international drug trade. These connections let him receive big shipments from South America, which he then spread across a huge network covering Central America, the United States, and even reaching into Europe. This expansion showed that El Pilo could operate on a global scale, a skill that would later make him valuable to bigger cartel operations. One of El Pilo's standout skills was his knack for hiding drugs. He got the nickname Caletero in criminal circles, which means he was really good at concealing contraband. This made him super valuable in the drug world, where being able to move large amounts of drugs without getting caught is crucial.
De los métodos mejor para poder ocultar la droga. Entonces él tenía rutas, utilizaba vehículos, utilizaba barcos, era muy buen caletero.
El Pilo was a pro at hiding drugs in all sorts of transportation, including cars and ships. This shows how versatile he was and how well he understood the ins and outs of international drug trafficking. El Pilo's criminal career took a big turn when he got mixed up with what would eventually become the CJNG. At first, El Pilo was set to become the new leader of the Millennium Cartel, which came before the CJNG. But his rise to power was stopped by Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, better known as El Mencho, who would go on to lead the CJNG. This power struggle caused a big split in the organization. El Mencho took control of a group called the Mata Zetas, or Zeta Killers, while El Pilo formed his own group called La Resistencia, or the Resistance. This split marked the end of the Millennium Cartel and set the stage for the rise of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel under El Mencho's leadership.
The Millennium Cartel splintered over, and one of those splinters was Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación, the CJNG.
The conflict between El Pilo and El Mencho would have far-reaching consequences, not just for their own criminal groups, but for the whole landscape of organized crime in Mexico.
Abrir un nuevo frente, que en este caso era la resistencia, pero porque él realmente estaba dado para ser el nuevo líder del cartel del milenio. Pero aparece Nemesio, que es el Mencho, y se mete en la mitad, no lo deja realmente poder ascender, y se abren dos facciones, los matacetas, que en este caso los tenía el Mencho, y se abre la resistencia.
So, yeah, there's some serious bad blood between El Pilo and the CJNG leadership. His switch to the good side isn't just seen as betraying the cartel, but as a personal insult to El Mencho, who he once fought with for power.
Cartel de Jalisco Nueva Generación, CJNG, is the single criminal organization most responsible for these deaths on both sides of the border.
The CJNG is one of the most powerful and dangerous criminal organizations in Mexico, characterized by a business model of extreme violence and trafficking in the most deadly of substances.
The Jalisco New Generation Cartel has become one of the most violent and powerful criminal groups, not just in Mexico, but worldwide. Their quick rise to power and brutal tactics have left a trail of destruction, affecting millions of lives through addiction, violence, and the breakdown of communities. To understand why these guys need to go, we need to grasp the full scope of what the CJNG is up to.
So what you saw was a change in the way drug cartels fought with violence. It was no longer those gang members with shaved heads and tattoos fighting with pistols and knives. It was militarized style, fighting like military units. And once they did it, this was spread across to every cartel in Mexico.
The CJNG's destruction goes way beyond just selling drugs. According to Insight Crime, the cartel operates in at least 28 of Mexico's 32 states, showing how quickly they've spread and how effective their often brutal methods are. This widespread presence lets them control huge areas, influencing local politics, economics, and social dynamics. They've gone international too, with connections in the United States, Europe, and Asia, making them a truly global criminal enterprise. The impact of the CJNG on public health is especially alarming. The cartel is a big player in making and distributing synthetic drugs, especially meth and fentanyl. These drugs have fueled the ongoing opioid crisis in the United States, leading to a staggering number of overdoses and deaths.
It doesn't last long, so you're sick again. Like heroin you can do in the morning and you can be all good till tomorrow. Like fentanyl you can withdraw like 3 times a day.
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reported over 100,000 drug overdose deaths in the United States in a 12-month period ending in April 2021, with synthetic opioids like fentanyl being the main cause of this epidemic. The CJNG's role in producing and distributing these substances makes them directly responsible for countless deaths and the devastation of families and communities. In Guadalajara, where the CJNG started, the cartel's influence has led to a surge in violence and drug addiction. Insight Crime reports that since the CJNG took control in the region, the city has seen a big increase in murders and disappearances. The cartel's control over local drug markets has also caused addiction rates to rise, especially among young people. What's happening in Guadalajara gives us a small-scale view of the broader destruction the CJNG brings to communities under its influence. The CJNG is into all sorts of criminal activities, including extortion, kidnapping, human trafficking, and illegal mining. They even took over avocado production in Michoacan, killing farmers who didn't want to play ball. And by play ball, they mean give up their businesses for free. Their diverse criminal portfolio makes them really hard for law enforcement to tackle, as they can quickly adapt and shift focus when one area of their operations is under pressure. This adaptability, combined with their willingness to use extreme violence, makes the CJNG a tough opponent for the cops. Recent reports have shed light on the CJNG's expanding criminal activities. According to El País, the cartel has been targeting American tourists with various scams, further diversifying their income streams and expanding their criminal reach. These activities don't just harm individuals, they have broader economic impacts, potentially affecting tourism and international relations. The relationship between Mexico and the US is strained right now, and Mexican cartels have a big role to play in this tension. The CJNG's global reach is particularly worrying. A report from USA Today highlights that the cartel, along with the Sinaloa cartel, has been targeting Hawaii for fentanyl and amphetamine distribution. This expansion into new territories shows the cartel's ambition and its ability to identify and exploit new markets, even in areas traditionally considered less vulnerable to cartel influence. The cartel's use of violence as a tool for control and expansion is shocking. They've been responsible for numerous high-profile attacks on law enforcement and government officials. In fact, in 2015, El Mencho's men shot down a military helicopter with a rocket-propelled grenade, a bold move that showed their firepower and willingness to directly confront state forces.
The latest cartel target, Mexico's military. The Jalisco New Generation Cartel took the fight to the next level, shooting down a military helicopter with a rocket-propelled grenade.
Actions like these create an atmosphere of fear and intimidation, making it tough for local authorities to effectively fight the cartel's influence. Through a mix of bribery, threats, and strategic investments, they've managed to build a network of corrupt officials and businesses that help their criminal activities. This level of infiltration makes fighting the cartel even harder, as it blurs the lines between legitimate businesses and criminal enterprises. The environmental impact of the CJNG's activities is another often overlooked aspect of their destructive influence. Their involvement in illegal logging and mining operations has led to significant environmental damage in various parts of Mexico. These activities not only harm local ecosystems, but also deprive communities of natural resources and sustainable economic opportunities. The CJNG is a threat to society. They leave bodies on the streets and keep millions of people living in fear. Those fighting on the right side of the law have known this for a long time. They need to be stopped. And thankfully, every now and then, someone from the cartel world decides to escape and side with authorities. Enter El Pilo. El Pilo's cooperation with U.S. authorities has already led to significant progress in the fight against the CJNG, marking a potential turning point in the battle against this powerful criminal organization. His insider knowledge and willingness to testify have given law enforcement agencies unprecedented insights into the cartel's operations, leading to several high-profile arrests and convictions.
Lo que conocemos, él fue capturado. Y a partir de eso, pues él empezó a tener como una relación de dar y recibir, ¿no? De tener información para empezar a negociar con la DEA y que efectivamente su pena fuera muchísimo menor y que pues fuera realmente un testigo protegido.
One of the biggest achievements resulting from El Pilo's cooperation has been his role in the arrest of Ruben Oseguera Gonzalez, aka El Menchito. El Menchito, El Mencho's son, was considered the second in command of the cartel and was being groomed to eventually take over leadership.
Judy, this is the story of like father, like son. Tonight, the man they call El Mencho is still a fugitive, but his son, the so-called Menchito, has just been extradited from Mexico to face U.S. prosecution.
When the feds arrested El Menchito in 2015 and shipped him off to the U.S. in 2020, it was like taking a sledgehammer to the CJNG's leadership. El Pilo's insider scoop was the secret sauce in building a rock-solid case against El Menchito, spilling the beans on exactly what he did in the cartel's dirty business. And this isn't small potatoes. El Menchito was his daddy's right-hand man, answering to no one else, in a cartel where El Mencho runs the show like a one-man band. Being number two is a big deal. El Mencho's known for not playing well with others, so having his son as his lieutenant, that's as close to sharing power as this kingpin gets.
Ruben Oseguera Gonzalez, the 28-year-old known as Menchito, finally extradited from Mexico and tonight is being held without bond on drug trafficking and machine gun charges following a brief appearance in D.C. District Court.
But the impact of El Pilo's cooperation goes beyond this high-profile arrest. His testimony has been instrumental in building cases against other high-ranking members of the cartel. Recently, El Pilo appeared in a U.S. court to testify against Gerardo Gonzalez Valencia, another of the CJNG's key financial operators. Known as Lalo or Flaco, Gonzalez Valencia was part of the cartel's financial wing, responsible for laundering millions of dollars in drug money. El Pilo's testimony contributed significantly to Gonzalez Valencia receiving a life sentence, dealing another blow to the CJNG's financial infrastructure.
Recientemente, el capo del narcotráfico reapareció en una corte estadounidense para testificar en contra de Gerardo González Valencia, uno más de los operadores financieros del cártel Jalisco y que ahora tiene cadena perpetua.
When El Pilo took the stand, he spilled the beans on everything CJNG. We're talking about a front row seat to the cartel's inner workings, their money moves, and who's who in their criminal circus. He didn't hold back when he dished about the Gonzalez Valencia brothers, Gerardo, Abigail, and Jose. These guys were running a multi-million-dollar operation, shipping cocaine by the truckload to the US and Europe. This kind of nitty-gritty info is pure gold for the prosecutors. It's like handing them a roadmap to take down the cartel, piece by piece. And for the cops trying to throw a wrench in CJNG's works, it's a game changer. But El Pilo didn't just talk business. He lifted the curtain on the cartel's dark side too. He confirmed that Gerardo Gonzalez Valencia wasn't just a suit, he was calling hits to keep the cartel's business humming. That explains his lifelong sentence. El Pilo even spilled about a particularly nasty bit of cartel justice. Seems Gonzalez Valencia ordered the hit on Antonio Guizar Valencia, a big shot in the rival Zetas gang, all because of a stolen cocaine shipment. With El Pilo connecting the dots between the cartel's top dogs and these brutal crimes, the prosecutor's cases just got a whole lot stronger. The upcoming trial of El Menchito, scheduled to start in October, is expected to be another significant blow to the CJNG. U.S. prosecutors are seeking a life sentence for El Mencho's son, and El Pilo is set to appear again as a key witness for the prosecution. Menchito has been going back and forth between plea deals and pleading not guilty for the last 4 years now. According to the latest news, he has switched back to not guilty, and his trial will start in October. The heir to a Mexican cartel empire, largely built on saturating the US with fentanyl and other drugs, was expected to spill cartel secrets this month to prosecutors in Washington, D.C. Instead, Ruben Oseguera Gonzalez backed out of his plea deal the day before his scheduled hearing in federal court. Oseguera Gonzalez, known as Menchito, now wants a trial and maintains his innocence on charges that he helped coordinate tonnage quantities of drugs funneled across the border and into the U.S. When El Pilo takes the stand in Menchito's trial, jurors and cartel leaders will be on the edge of their seats. Some netizens are even dreaming big, thinking El Pilo might just spill something so juicy it could lead the feds right to El Mencho's doorstep. There's another angle here too. Every time El Pilo opens his mouth in court, he's sending a loud and clear message to everyone still in the cartel. If I can flip, so can you. It shows that even the top dogs can decide to jump ship and swim to the other side. El Pilo's story is a real-life example of why informants are the secret sauce in the fight against organized crime. Think about it. Cops can stake out street corners all day long, but nothing beats having someone who's been in the room where it happens. Informants like El Pilo can tell you who's calling the shots, how they're moving their product, and where the bodies are buried. Sometimes, literally, you just can't get that kind of intel any other way. That's why guys like El Pilo are worth their weight in gold when it comes to taking down these criminal empires. For gang members, becoming an informant can be a ticket out of a dangerous life. But it's not an easy choice. It's super risky. You might get hurt, your family could be in danger, and your whole life gets turned upside down. El Pilo's case shows how scary it can be. Your old buddies might come after you, and it's tough to turn on people you used to work with.
Do you worry that you might not make it home?
Es difícil, es una parte muy difícil porque está de por medio mi vida.
That's why witness protection is so important. These programs keep informants safe, help them move, and even give them new identities. Without this safety net, many folks would be too scared to come forward. Many teens from vulnerable backgrounds get sucked into a life of crime, manipulated and threatened by cartels into doing the worst, then threatened with death if they try to escape. So many gang members are too afraid to leave.
He pulled out a handgun, told me to kill that person, the one kneeling in front of him. And I just shot him. And he said he was putting me on his payroll.
But El Pilo sends a message to all gang members. If you're looking to ditch the gang life, you've got options. You could work with the cops like El Pilo did, but it's risky business. Or you might join a rehab program that will help you find a legit job. Leaving organized crime is tough, but it's doable. There's help out there, but how much and how good it is depends on where you live. Programs like Youth Building the Future in Mexico show how giving young people chances can keep them from joining gangs in the first place. It's all about creating better options than a life of crime. As of 2024, the DEA seems closer than ever to putting an end to giant monsters like the CJNG and the Sinaloa cartel. El Mayo is behind bars. El Chapo's sons are slowly getting arrested one by one, and El Mencho is also seeing his right-hand men taken away from him.
Count indictment charging 41 people of drug trafficking in cocaine, and fentanyl, as well as money laundering. All 41 defendants operated under the overall control.
El Pilo's cooperation with authorities, while controversial, highlights the importance of insider information in the fight against organized crime. His testimony has already led to significant blows against the CJNG, including the arrest and conviction of key figures within the organization. The upcoming trial of El Menchito, where El Pilo is expected to testify, could potentially deal another significant blow to the cartel's leadership. Let's wrap this up with the bigger picture. El Pilo's story isn't just about one guy flipping on his old crew. It's a wake-up call. It shows just how dangerous it is for folks to turn on these cartels, even when they're trying to do the right thing. We need solid witness protection and support systems, or else nobody's gonna risk their neck to come forward. Moving forward, we've got to keep backing the good guys, the cops, the international task forces, and the community programs working to keep kids off the streets. It's not just about busting bad guys. It's about taking back our neighborhoods and giving people better options than a life of crime. El Pilo's tale is part of a bigger story, one of people fighting back against the cartels, choosing a different path even when it seems impossible. It's proof that change can happen, one person at a time. Sure, we're still in the thick of this fight against the cartels, but stories like El Pilo's, they give us hope. They remind us that behind all the scary headlines, there are real people making tough choices that can turn the tide. At the end of the day, this isn't just about crime and punishment. It's about people standing up for what's right, about communities coming together, and about building a world where the good guys can win. El Pilo's story shows us that even when things look darkest, there's always a chance to make a change. And sometimes, that's all we need to keep fighting the good fight. Hey, thanks for tuning in. What are your thoughts on the CJNG? Do you think they can ever be stopped? And would the violence go down if so? Let me know in a comment down below. And before you go, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, and hit that bell button. See you soon.